The year is 2020. I was watching videos of a YouTuber named Nitrorad as I was binging his videos. I came across this video on Yume Nikki Dream Diary. I'd expect most people know what Yume Nikki is, but in case you don't, it's an RPG Maker game where you explore the dreams of a distressed girl. It's fairly popular and has a cult following of fans that still exists to this day. As for Yume Nikki Dream Diary, it was a 3D reimagining of Yume Nikki. It was met with an alright reception, but it didn't quite capture what made the original special. In the video that Nitrorad made about it, he mentioned that there was a cute little Easter egg showcasing a minigame that was based off another RPG Maker game that would be considered a cult classic. It was a small arcade version of Aoni. Aoni, for those who aren't aware of it, is one of the classic RPG Maker horror games that was popular in early YouTube. A small arcade version that was playable had a simple gameplay loop: locate your friends, solve puzzles, and survive from getting chased by demons. I thought with such a simple gameplay loop, I can make that. That's how I got started with the development of a game that is now called Lorelai's Limbo. Lorelai's Limbo is what I would call a very unorthodox horror game. It being the first game that I put out online, I think it was too unusual for the world and how it ended up being. I'm currently redoing the game's art and fixing some bugs for a new patch, but note that the gameplay footage of this is from before I've redone the sprites. Either way, here's a post-mortem on the game where I talk about development, game design, and all things about it. The game starts you off in a cutscene that says in the corner scene 26. You start off being shown a scene that is close to the end of the game, hence you probably don't understand what's going on. After a cutscene, you're booted onto the game's main menu that shows 5 options: play limbo and list data of VHS series, VCR specs, and eject disc. Play limbo is to start a run, and list data is to save game, VHS series is to play cutscenes, VCR specs is to customize gameplay settings, and eject disc is to exit to the title screen. To start, press play limbo. For context, this should be like starting a new run in a roguelite. I specify roguelite with a T because it shares a key characteristic that roguelites have that roguelikes with a K don't. In a roguelike, the only thing that changes between runs is your experience or knowledge of the game. Roguelites, however, the game itself can change depending on your actions in your previous runs. Examples of roguelites that I know are Hades and Dead Cells, while some roguelikes that I know are The Binding of Isaac and Spelunky. Starting a new run is different from starting a new game. Upon starting a new run, you'll be dropped into where the game takes place and with a picture showcasing the basic controls. After this, you'd have started your first run. To get a better understanding, let me explain the gameplay loop. You are in a house that you cannot exit. To exit, you must find notes scattered around the house to unlock a safe. Around the house as well are coins which will be used to buy certain things. One of those things are VHS tapes. VHS tapes will include scenes as they are unlocked chronologically starting from scene 1. You could watch these scenes on the VHS series option of the main menu. Watching these scenes will uncover how you got into your current situation and the events leading up to it. There can only be a maximum of 1 coin in each room. There are 11 rooms in the house, so at most you can collect 11 coins by means of finding them around. Next, let us talk about the aforementioned safe that we need to unlock. When you unlock the safe, you are rewarded coins depending on the amount of scenes that you have unlocked. Between 0 to 4 scenes, you will be rewarded 5 coins. Between 5 to 7, you will be rewarded 10. 8 to 9, you will be rewarded with 15. 10 to 14, you will be rewarded with 20. And if you have 15 or more, you will be rewarded with 25. To reset the safe and the coins around the house, you must exit the house to start a new round. You can only exit the house by unlocking the safe, as the key to the exit is within the safe. When you exit the house, that's considered winning a round. After winning a round, you are brought back inside the house to start a new one. You could only properly leave the house once you collected all the VHS tapes. When starting a new round, if you have any coins from winning a previous round, you can keep it and save it up to buy stuff. Buy more VHS tapes to progress or perchance rent or buy some skins. Skins affect you visually but also gives the player some sort of ability. The retro skin makes the walking speed as fast as the running speed. The female skin highlights the spots where notes can be found, and the hell skin allows you to take an extra hit when attacked by enemies. Speaking of which, I've never spoken about the enemies yet. Enemies can start spawning once certain conditions are met. If they touch you, they attack you, but I give the player a second chance if, in a round, they get attacked. The player gets warped to a random room in the house with a blood splatter filter on the screen. If they get attacked during that state, the run ends and the player loses all their money. Talking about the further intricacies of the game, I will choose not to nerd out as much as I normally would, because otherwise, since Lorelai's Limbo is easily my most complex game, I might bore the people watching. However, if you are curious, I will have made a post on the itch.io page of Lorelai's Limbo, which includes parts of this video script that I have decided not to include due to it either being too complicated or perhaps it could be considered filler. As for the enemies, there are basically 2 types plus 1, Joblins and Friends. First, let's talk about the the Joblins. I named Joblins over Jaw and Goblins. I think this is the first time in the history of my character designs where you can see my obsession with hollowed out faces. This stems from multiple things that I had found interesting in horror concepts as a child, namely the Kaibutsu from Dot Flow and the faceless squall image that pops up for a single frame in Final Fantasy VIII. Going back to Joblins, there are 5 types. Going with the basic type, the roaming Joblin, you unlock them upon surviving 1 round. These follow you on the same speed as the player's default walking speed. They spawn fairly often and will most likely be one of, if not your most common way of dying. Early on in the game, they have pauses in their movement, but soon they will stop having pauses and therefore making them harder to deal with. Next is the Boom Boom Joblin. You unlock them upon having Scene 5 unlocked. Once you've unlocked them, a timer starts upon starting a new round that will get the Boom Boom Joblin to attack you once the timer hits 0. To reset the timer to prevent their attack from occurring, you must find the BBJ in the house and feed it a coin. Next up is the Nin Joblin. You unlock them upon having Scene 8 unlocked. Once you've unlocked them, there will always be one Nin Joblin in practically every room. They move slowly and fade to transparency. After a while, they will fade back into being visible. The thing is, if you bump into them, whether or not they are invisible, they attack you. The good thing is they can't hurt you if you're staying still, but the timer of the Boom Boom Joblin will urge you to act quickly, so waiting for the perfect moment to move isn't always the optimal play. Next up is the Yandere Joblin. You unlock them upon having Scene 10 unlocked. If you see them, you have to interact with them. If you leave a room without interacting with them, they attack you. They are pretty straightforward, but they are a bitch to deal with if you are already dealing with something else in the room. Normally, you would leave the room as that would cause most enemies to despawn, but if she's in the room, you have to prioritize her. The last Joblin type is the Game Host Joblin. You unlock them upon having Scene 10 unlocked. If you have seen at least one note during that round, they can spawn and will occasionally ask you about what number does a certain note say. If you get it wrong, they attack you, otherwise they'd leave you alone until they decide to spawn again. Next up, the next enemy type are friends. The first one is called Termbrust. You unlock them upon surviving 3 rounds. Termbrust moves slowly, then gets burst of speed towards you. They repeat this movement pattern. Next is Flugeldrap. You unlock them upon surviving 4 rounds. When they spawn, you cannot leave the room until you grab a shovel found within the room, so you can hit them in the gut and they despawn. Next is Caliber. You unlock them upon surviving 5 rounds. Spawn the moment you enter the room, and if you take a step in the room, they can kill you, so it's smart to just leave the room as soon as you see them. The Yandere Joblin and Caliber have contrasting mechanics, so none of them can spawn at the same time. If both of their spawn conditions are met, the Yandere Joblin is the one that will spawn instead of Caliber. Next is an enemy that is neither a Joblin nor a friend, and it's Glagner. You unlock them upon having Scene 13 unlocked. They appear in 9 special locations that you can enter by means of a portal or randomly upon entering a room. You must find the exit in those locations or else they'll take all your coins if they catch up to you. Once you have Scene 20, however, they attack you instead. This all might seem overwhelming, but there's an interesting system that really makes the game fun to play with skill, the streak system. If the player wins a round before the start of a new round, they could disable enemies that they have unlocked with coins permanently until they die, or if you want, you can get more coins. Though, if you disable more than 3 enemies in a run, you get penalized by a secret enemy that can spawn. There are also the aforementioned skins. Buying a skin permanently would cost around 10 coins. However, you could rent one for only 2 coins. If you die, you will have to rent it again. Winning a round doesn't forcibly remove the skin you rented, so you'll have it equipped until you lose a streak. I might change that when I make the patch though. Speaking of which, I'd like to talk about the previous patches. I could talk about all the little things that slowly got added and removed patch by patch, but that's gonna make this video too long, so I'll just go through the highlights. Across the versions, the things that changed constantly are the visuals. Even for this next patch, I'm about to update the visuals. Some of the changes were prompted by feedback, and since this was my first game that I put out online, I did not know how to differentiate between proper critiques and just opinions. Like, one of the things I hate that I decided to follow up on was when somebody said, add some color on a bullet point of critiques, which they really weren't. It shouldn't have been called a critique because dumb little me thought it was a considerable problem. The first version of the game was black and white, and the art direction to go black and white were prompted by RPG Maker games that I liked, like Deer, a game by Ochabashira, and The God of Crawling Eyes, a game that was black and white but would occasionally have some red. In hindsight, I really liked the original art more than what happened to the game's art after that so-called critique. This looks like ass. Looking at the current build is what prompted me to go and update the game's art, because at least the first version's art would have aged better. 45 years in, as a game developer, my art style has solidified itself with having a fascination with restricted color palettes. The game has a color motif of pink, green, and red, so the new patch will embrace only those colors alongside black and white. For the non-visual changes, 3 come into mind. Those 3 have all been removed. The inclusion of pentagrams to help the player dictate what tiles on the floor could spawn monsters and where the monsters could spawn was something I ended up removing. I wasn't sure if this was unnecessary or not, but I removed it because I thought people would be confused about it. The other 2 things that I've removed are items and quests. There were items that you could buy, some of them could help you deal with the monsters, but they were single use and certain items are just for specific monsters. Not only that, but if you haven't unlocked the enemy that the item deals with, the item slot on the shop will say item not yet unlocked, which would confuse new players if they saw it. Quests more or less were ways to get money that was unconventional, like survive an attack from a certain enemy. Since the spawn chances are randomized, this was just not a good idea. Some quests were even more unconventional, like to successfully use an item on a certain enemy. The final nail in the coffin was that whenever I playtested the game, I found it more optimal to just not bother with the items or quests since they were just unreliable. The 3 things that I removed were during the time I decided to make the game cost money to buy. This was due to, personal reasons. It's a reoccurring thing for parents across all years to not have a proper appreciation of creative careers until they start showing results. Needless to say, I am Asian. My parents are also Asian, so of course it's a little worse than usual. So I put a price tag on the game and re-released it to get some money, without putting marketing into consideration. Even without marketing it, I got like $30 during the time it was in the new and hot section of itch.io. The money I made was sort of enough to show my parents that I was serious about this. Granted, $30 isn't anything special, but to me, it was amazing. You may notice that I chose not to talk about the story. That's because I felt that the story could be argued as one of the best things about the game, and I wouldn't like to spoil it for those who are interested. I'm trying to get $100 so I could get my passion project up on Steam, since Steam requires $100 for a game to be put up. So if you could, please give me money on itch.io. If you could. If you can't, at least play my games and leave a comment about your experience. Every now and then, somebody leaves a good response to my game and those comments keep me going. One time, somebody mentioned that they've played a certain game of mine like 6 times already. The game that this guy played multiple times is a game called 6 Feet Blunder. And that will be the next game that I'll be making a post-mortem on. Subscribe if you haven't yet to follow the development on my passion project and to see more dissections of my own work like this on the months to come.